done anything on this. He hasn't made any efforts at all. Apparently, if he'd done as much on that as he'd done on publicizing the great surpluses we have, or telling about the calamitous and burdensome surpluses maybe we'd gotten someplace. I wonder if anybody would like to comment on that, the reason why more activity hasn't been shown in carrying out the provisions of those laws. Maybe that's a difficult question.
Well, that brings up one other point that I would like to emphasize in connection with this whole problem of our relationships with the rest of the free world. We talk about trade, not aid. That is good in the long run. But we shouldn't be misled into thinking that in the very short run we can have only trade and not aid. That's too easy a solution. For example, suppose when the United States was prostrate in the face of the Depression, we had said in the United States, let's not have any kind of assistance to people who haven't got money with which to buy. Let's just have trade. The farmer's broke, but let him trade. The worker is unemployed, but let him trade. In other words, for a while you had to have some aid before you could build a sound trade. Now, whether we like it or not, the situation in the free world is this. In the first place, we fought the Second World War. We had to fight it. We all benefited by winning it, America more than other countries, not through any fault of ours, but because we happened to be in a geographic situation where we suffered no destruction, although we did suffer loss of lives, and that is terribly precious and important. We benefited more than others from winning the war. Now, those countries were decimated. They lost their housing, they lost their productive facilities, and so forth and so on. It seems like a long time since the end of World War II, but it isn't really a long time in the life of nations. And therefore, there is still a situation where for a while longer, we have, in addition to trade, to exercise some practical generosity. Practical generosity is good business. It isn't practical generosity to say that we're going to extend aid to these countries in the forms of armaments, but not in any economic form. That's just silly. Because in the first place, it's saying to them, we value you as a sort of human fodder to be in front of us with guns if anything happens, but we don't care enough about your economic lives and about your social conditions and about your health and welfare to want to help you any in that direction. So you've got to have some practical generosity. Now take Korea as an example without getting into any of the details. Korea was decimated by war, a war in which we participated. We thought it was necessary. Now it's perfectly silly to talk about trade, not aid to Korea, as if Korea were now on a basis of relative equality with us where they could trade with us. You can have trade between people who are not equals, but there has to be some parity before you can start to trade. If we really want to see a free Korea, and if we want to see it get to the point where it can trade with us, there has to be some aid first. And while I am all for trade, not aid, as a long-run, sound proposition, it's just an illusion and a delusion and a mockery to think that suddenly you can meet this whole free world situation by having trade and not having any more aid. If you think of it that way, it's only a slogan, and I think we should be practical about it. Now, specifically, I think, strange as it may sound, that there are a lot of people in the United States who have cut too short and too fast on the idea that in addition to trade, if we have an alliance of free nations, if the unbalances are so great, and if we're going to continue to help them on the armament side, which I think is generally conceded, we have to have some economic aid as well as some military aid, and we have to have some aid as well as some trade. If you try to move too fast from all aid to all trade, you're just breaking the thing down in the middle and you're trying an impossibility.